to my Minecraft Bedrock structure spawn mechanics video. And in this video, I hope to explain how structure spawns work and how they differentiate and also depend on regular mob spawning. And I hope to clear up a lot of the confusion and misinformation that has been spread lately. Alright, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to start with the witch hut, because out of the three overworld structures that most people talk about when they talk about structure spawn mechanics, the witch hut is the simplest. The other two, the outpost and the ocean monument, we'll get to in just a moment. Now there's a fourth type, the Nether Fortress, but I'm not going to cover that. If you want to know how that works, go check out Dr. Jan Cyan's Nether Fortress farm video. He explains the structure spawn mechanics of it. He shows you how to find the structure spots, the spawn spots. He does it in a far better manner than I could ever do. So go check out his video. It'll be down in the description. Okay, now back to this witch hut. We're going to talk about some terms. An HSA, which means hard-coded spawn area, and an HSS, or hard-coded spawn spot. Now a HSA, hard-coded spawn area, is simply the portion of a structure that is within a single chunk. Now in a witch hut, it's going to be 100% of this structure is within a chunk. You may see my chunk border resource pack. Link in the description for that also, because everyone asks every video. So link will automatically start being in the description. This witch hut is within a single chunk. So it is one HSA. This structure has one HSA, one hard-coded spawn area. Now, within a HSA, you will find a HSS, or hard-coded spawn spot. It'll be approximately here. And that is where the actual mobs will spawn, is the HSS. Now, in the overworld structures, you get one HSS per HSA. You get one hard-coded spawn spot per one hard-coded spawn area. So if a structure crosses a chunk border, you would actually get two HSA, or two hard-coded spawn areas. And centered in each HSA would be the HSS, the hard-coded spawn spot. Let's jump to the outpost where you can more clearly see this concept. Here we are at the outpost. Now, if you want to learn how to find the spawn spots for an outpost, I will have a link to a video that I did about how to find all of the spawn spots in an outpost, because some outposts have 1, 2, or 4 spots depending on its orientation within the chunk, or within chunks actually. Because you may notice I chose this one on purpose. You may notice the chunk border resource pack here shows that these banners are in the next chunk, and same thing with these banners. Notice that is to the south and to the east. So according to for every chunk that a structure is in, you get one HSA and of course one HSS per chunk. So because an outpost is 15 blocks by 15 blocks, including the banners, this particular outpost is in this chunk, this chunk, this chunk, and this chunk. Because the banners are on this block, it includes into this fourth chunk. Now this one block right here is both the HSA, hard-coded spawn area, and the HSS, the hard-coded spawn spot. So this is a spawn spot for this outpost. Now, this HSA extends to the same footprint as the outpost, but remember, it also has the banners, so it extends one more. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It is 14 by 1. And of course, this one is also 14 by 1. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then, of course, the banner's 14. And then, of course, this one is actually 14 by 14. Now, to find the actual HSA, to find the actual HSS, I have a video, but I will show you where they are in this one. And if you have 4 spots, they're always in the exact same spot. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The spots are always going to be exactly 7 blocks apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the one inside the outpost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that shows you where all 4 spawn spots would be inside of this outpost. Now the spawn spots for a structure can go all the way from the base to the roof. Now, each structure is a little different on that one. On an outpost, it can only go 3 blocks from the top of the roof. You won't get any spawns above that. 3 blocks below the top of the roof. So for instance, this one is 84. The highest you would get a spawn is 81. Each structure is a little different. Alright, let's jump over and take a look at an ocean monument and you'll see the HSA more clearly. Here we are at the ocean monument. Now an ocean monument covers a very large area. It's the largest of all the structure spawns in the overworld. It goes for, here's the chunk border. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 chunks by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this gives you a 5 by 5 chunks. This structure covers 5 by 5 chunks. So that's why it's 25 chunks. And that's why a ocean monument has 25 HSS, hard-coded spawn spots. So when you see people build guardian farms, it always has 25 spots. That is because each HSA, or hard-coded spawn area, has 1 HSS, hard-coded spawn spot. So for each chunk that this entire structure is in, you get a HSA and you get a HSS. Now most people don't care about the HSA, they only care about the HSS, but it is called the hard-coded spawn spot in the code. Thanks to Rufus Atticus for that. Link to his channel will be in the description, along with many other people who have contributed to this. So all of their links and names and etc. will be down in the description. So let's jump into some actual farms and we'll discuss how this applies to farms and not just general terminology. Here we are on a backup creative copy of the AA or Advanced Automation realm that I play on. And I made a couple of modifications here. This is the witch hut. This is obviously the witch farm here. And you'll notice that no witches are falling down. That's for one simple reason. I slabbed the entire chunk that the witch hut is in. Now I did this to prove a point. You may also notice that the ground is slabbed so that nothing spawns here. Now, with no regular mobs being spawned, you'll notice that also no structure spawns are happening either. The way the algorithm works is a regular mob spawn attempt must be made. Now, things like slabs block the attempt. So with no attempt made, then no structure spawn attempt will be made either. So if you don't have a regular mob attempt spawn, it doesn't have to succeed. the attempt can fail, meaning that you can torch it up, or you can put sea lanterns or whatever. But you can't have it slabbed. Also, water blocks it. And as of 1.14.1, things like glass, things like farmland, things like leaves. Now, these are all bugs, I believe, and I believe they will be fixed eventually. But things like glass and leaves and farmland and slabs and stuff like that, they block spawn attempts. Now, when you block a regular mob spawn attempt, then all attempts are done for that tick and it moves to the next tick. So, but if you have an attempt in the chunk that the structure is in, then you also will have a structure spawn attempt, assuming that your structure meets the requirements. Like you haven't destroyed it, and there's a block for them to spawn on, and depending on which structure it is, because some mobs need to be dark, and some mobs need it to be like a witch hut needs to be dark on the inside, but an outpost will spawn at any light level, as will guardians. So, if there is no regular mob spawn attempt, then there will be no structure mob spawn attempt. Now, let me break these slabs, and I'll show you that this farm actually does work. Now that I've removed the slabs, let's check out the mob farm actually working. See that? Now that we removed the slabs, we're actually spawning witches again. Now, let's jump over to the outpost again, because I can really clearly show you the differences between blocking spawn attempts. There, they're coming pretty quick now. I can clearly show you the difference between spawn attempts and when you block spawn attempts. Okay, here we are back at the same outpost as from before. Now, we've done a few modifications. We've smoothed out each chunk that the outpost was in. We covered up any water. We provided ideal spawn spots. Now, you'll notice that we lit them up because we don't care if the spawns fail. We only need the attempt. So I'm going to back up a little bit so we can see mobs spawning in there. You'll be able to see them light up red. You see them being killed pretty quickly. Now, I want to show you what happens when I cover each chunk with leaves or a non-spawnable block. Because leaves in 1.14.1, due to a bug, block all regular mob spawns below them. So with no regular mob spawns attempted, you will actually get no structure spawns attempted either. Now, before you say, well, of course leaves block spawns, notice that I have leaves above the spawn locations here. The leaves aren't actually blocking the structure spawns. I want that to be very clear. The leaves are blocking the regular mob spawn attempts. And when you block all of the regular mob spawn attempts, then you will get no structure mob spawn attempts. You need the regular mob spawns to get the structure mob spawns. They don't actually have to spawn regular mobs. It only needs to be able to attempt a spawn. The attempt can fail due to density check. The attempt can fail due to lighting. It can fail to a lot of things. However, the attempt cannot be blocked. The attempt has to happen. If the attempt fails, that's okay. If the attempt is blocked, it will also not attempt a structure spawn. So if you don't have an attempt, then you don't get a structure spawn either. That's how they differentiate, and that's how actually structure spawns depend on regular mob spawns. So let's jump into it with the entire 4 chunks covered with leaves so I can show you that we will get no structure spawns. Now, here we are back in the same world, only this time the entire 4 chunks is covered with leaves. Notice that we're getting no mob spawn. Now, we're too close to spawn mobs, but we'll scoot back into range and we still won't get any mob spawns. It's structure spawns. Notice that we aren't getting any mob spawns underneath here. A creeper spawned over there and kind of wandered into the water there. But notice that we're not getting any mob spawns inside of the structure. That is because the leaves have blocked all regular mob spawns in these chunks. I'll switch to night so you can see really. We're getting no mob spawn in these chunks. The leaves, the slabs, the glass, the farmland, there's a whole list of blocks. But they block mob spawns. And when you block mob spawns, then the algorithm skips to the next tick and you don't get a structure spawn for that tick. So leaves, slabs, glass, etc., they block mob spawns. Which is why. Let me jump to the Guardian farm so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we are on the backup copy of AA, or Advanced Automation, and this is the Guardian farm, and it was built by Zenupchef and Withnout, and it was designed by Kenneth Adu. Links to all those people in the description, of course. And it has the typical 25 portals like you would expect in any Guardian farm. Now, let's see what's going on below the surface. Here we are with our Guardian Temple. Now, a lot of people will remove this temple, this monument, and they will slab the ground. And when they do that, because of the bug in 1.14, that kills all the spawns all the way down. Now, they slab it because they believe that doing so will prevent drowned spawns. However, drowned or surface only spawns and don't affect your Guardian farms at all. Because despite what other people may have said, all structure spawns count towards the cave cap. It doesn't matter if you have a block here or not. You can't make some of them surface. You can't make some of them cave. They are all cave cap spawns. Let me say that one more time. They're all cave cap spawns. You can't convert half to surface and half to cave and double your rates. That's not how it works. So when people have slabbed the ground under here, because they've removed the monument and they slabbed the ground, and then when 1.14.1 happened, their rates were probably almost zero. When that happened, they came to AA and Advanced Automation and asked, what's going on? What can we do about this? And we told them, build a solid roof over it and it will restore your rates. Now, that was the right move for them. If you didn't slab the ground, building a roof over your Guardian farm would provide no difference to you. So, to call that rubbish means that you don't understand the mechanics. You don't understand why they built a roof, because it didn't apply to you. You didn't finish slabbing, so that bug didn't affect you. However, people who came to us, the bug did affect them, and we gave them the solution. So, that's the reason why the slab the ground requires a solid roof, so that the spawn attempts can be on the roof. You would need to light it up or make it out of sea lanterns or some other spawnable block that prevents mobs spawning on it due to light levels rather than blocking the attempts. Because if the leaves, glass, slabs, farm, whatever isn't the top block, then the bug doesn't affect it. So if you build a solid roof over your slabbed ground, then you still will get mob spawns. Notice that on our witch farm that we had a solid roof over our witch farm for that very reason. Now, people used to call this RSM, or reliable structure mechanics. However, we just now call it structure spawn mechanics. I hope I've been very clear. Let me jump into one more thing though. I want to talk about testing. And in particular, I want to talk about testing methods. How you test is as important as what you test. To do a rate test, you would need to test for an extended period of time. And then you would need to divide by a set number of time to reach an average. I see so many people when they test, they run a 1 hour test and claim that's the rate, or they run a 10-minute test and multiply by 6 to get an hourly rate. What you actually need to do is run an 8-hour test, divide by 8 to give you an hourly average rate. With that said, if you just want to compare two very quick tests, let's say you want to do a 5-minute test of test number 1 and a 5-minute test of test number 2. To run a single test of test 1 versus a single test of test 2, because there are so many variables, it borders on useless information. You would need to do test number 1 multiple times and take an average, and run test number 2 multiple times and take an average and compare the two averages. You can run shorter tests in comparison to each other, but you need to understand how random spawns work and how averages work. Running a 5-minute test and then running another 5-minute test and comparing the two, you're going to get inconsistent results because of variables such as time of day and weather and AFK spots and a million other factors that can go into that. So running 2 5-minute tests and then declaring that you've proved something only proves that you didn't spend enough time testing. Now, when you're testing structure spawns, you need to understand the relationship between the structure and the chunk. And we talked about that earlier. When you test something involving a chunk and you test 2 blocks out of the chunk, that represents 0.8% of that chunk. That chunk is 16 blocks by 16 blocks. You can count them real quick in the video if you'd like. Which means it's 256 blocks. 2 blocks out of that chunk represents less than 1% of the chunk. So to run a test on 1% of the chunk and then compare it to exactly another test of 1% of the chunk and you get similar results, well, of course that's what's going to happen. You compared 0.8% to 0.8% and then were surprised that the results were within a few drops of each other. Well, of course they were. You didn't test 99.2%. So, short sample sizes and small testing areas led to inconclusive results for your tests. Couple that with not understanding how the structure spawn mechanics work, explains why you believe that I was wrong, saying that if you have slabbed over the ground, you need a roof over it. Because you didn't understand the mechanics, and you didn't understand the bugs, and you had flawed testing. Now, it's inevitable that I will have gotten something wrong in this video. For sure. So, if somebody believes that I've gotten something wrong, leave it in the comments. We'll talk about it. If it warrants another video, I will record that also. If you want to say, hey, old guy, you're an idiot, that's okay too. If you like what I do, then just say, hey, thanks, old guy, that's very helpful. If you like things I do, you will also like the people in the description, so check them out. If you want to find me on Discord, links to Discords that I hang out in, such as TechRock, Advanced Automation, Nexus, Evil Layer, also Dr. Jan Cyan's Discord, and of course, all links to those will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.